Have you seen the recent price softening happening in Silicon Valley? If not, you're about to find out. Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name's Cesar Yanis and I'm your real estate authority here in Silicon Valley. And today I'm gonna share with you a market update of the real estate market here in Santa Clara County. We're gonna take a look at single family homes and we're gonna see 5 different graphs that will help us understand the pricing that's happening, the amount of inventory we have, and the days it's taking for homes to sell in this current market. So stay tuned. All right, so let's go over the graphs. The first graph we're gonna see is the number of homes for sale versus sold. I'll put it here on the screen so you can see it with me. And as you can see, this graph is over the last year in Santa Clara County for single family homes. Now, if we take a look at the first month, August 2021, there are less active homes on the market versus the number of homes that sold. So 960 versus 1100. If you see that trend continues for September, October, November, December, January, so there has always been over the past year less homes for sale than houses being sold. This means that demand has been way above supply each and every month over the last year, and this trend continued up until March, having more homes sold than inventory. We still have April, more homes sold than inventory, and then you finally see the shift in the market in May of this year, 2022. So 1,195 homes for sale versus 973 homes closed. It continued that trend on June, 1,400 homes versus 927. So the gap got even wider in June, and the gap got even more wide in July. 1,400 homes for sale versus 655 homes sold. So as you can see, over the past 2 months in June and July, the inventory is way higher than the levels we saw a year ago. In August of last year, homes for sale were only at 960, and this year, this time of the year, it's 1,400. So about 400 more homes on the market than a year ago, and far less sales than a year ago as well. So we see a huge change in the market there with homes for sale versus sold. Now, the second graph I want to show you is the months of inventory. So I'll put it up here. And this is over the last 3 years, single family homes in Santa Clara County. And this is broken into 6 months each year. So we'll take a look at it. So months of inventory means that it would take 3 months for all the houses to sell if there was no new inventory coming in. So typically in Silicon Valley, we don't have a lot of months of inventory anyways. As you can see from this whole graph as a whole, the max amount of inventory we've had is slightly above 2.5 months. So if we take a look at the first semester in 2019, inventory was at a high at about 2.5 months. Then it takes a huge dip. And something I want to point out in this graph is every time you have a peak in inventory, if you see, it's followed by a big dip. So again, between July 2019 to January 2020, you have a peak of almost a little above 2 months of inventory. Then it drops dramatically to about 1 month of inventory. It happens again the next semester, January 2020 to July 2020, where COVID started. So you have a huge peak of inventory, almost 2.5 months of inventory, and then it drops dramatically at the end of July 2020 to less than a month and a half of inventory. So each time you have a big peak is followed by a big drop, and this big peak is probably when COVID started and restrictions, and there was a lot of uncertainty with how the real estate market was going to move forward. So that's probably due. And as we all know, real estate has been super crazy since COVID started. So you see the consistent drop of inventory over the last 2 years is just well below 1 month of inventory. And again, over the last semester, January 2022 to July of this year, you see a huge increase on the months of inventory. So we go from that, probably that little dip in the last 6 months is the peak of the market, which is springtime here. So that's probably March and April. And then this increase is over the last couple months. So we're almost back up to 2.5 months of inventory, which we haven't seen since the beginning of 2020. So it'll be interesting to see if this graph continues climbing and we have more inventory in the next few months. The third graph I want to show you is the days to sell over time. It's here on the screen. So this is pretty much how many days it takes for a house to sell in Silicon Valley. Again, this is over the last year. So you can see that over the last year, September, October, November, December of 2021, on average, homes were taking about 15 days to sell, 2 weeks. Now, beginning of this year, it slightly decreased to 14 days in January and February. Then peak of the market, as I mentioned, springtime, March and April, it was only taking 10 days for homes to sell on average. And then you see a little shift in May, it increased to 11 days, then June, 14 days, and then July and August above 20 days on the market. So it's climbing at a fast pace, and it's taking longer for homes to sell now than we did a year ago for about a week more than what we saw a year ago. On to the next graph. This is sales volume. I'll put it on the screen. This is the total monetary amount of real estate sold in Santa Clara County. So this is over just this year to date, from January 2022 to August 2022. This is the total real estate sold. So as you see, in January, we sold about $1 billion of real estate in Silicon Valley. February to March, it climbs almost to well above $2 billion. Then March and April, you see that's the top of the mountain. Peak, close to 2.5 billion in sales. It kind of stays steady April to May, and then May to June is still well above 2 billion. And then once we hit that June mark, then sales just plummet. There's a lot less sales. It goes below the 2 billion mark. July to August, it continues to decrease to the 1 billion mark, and then August we'll see how much real estate is sold. So as you see, the total sales is well below the peak time. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. And lastly, the last graph I want to show you is the sale to list price ratio. I'll put it here on the screen. This is how much a house is selling over asking price. So as you can see on the graph, this will show us the homes that sold over 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, or even under asking price, 95%, which never happens in Silicon Valley. But this is again over semesters over the last 3 years. So if we take a look from January 2019 to January 2020, homes were selling consistently at about asking price and slightly above. Beginning of COVID, January 2020 to July 2020, we saw a bit of increase in the list to sale price ratio. So it went a little bit above 5%. Homes were selling a little bit above asking. And then once we hit summer of 2020, you see the graph just consistently increases. So we've seen an increase in pricing over the past 2 years that hasn't really stopped. So we see from January 2021 to July 2021, homes were selling 10% over asking price. From July 2021 to January 2022, homes were selling at 15% over asking price. And then the last year to date, January 2022 to July 2022, you see that we peaked at almost 20% over asking price, and then it just plummeted. So completely plummeted, meaning that as we see now, it's closer to 100%, which is basically asking price. So homes are no longer selling 10-15% over asking price. It's much closer to their list price, and possibly a lot of them are selling under list price due to them being on the market a lot longer. So I hope that information was helpful, and you're probably wondering, Cesar, what do you think is going to happen with the real estate market over the next 6 months? And here's what I think. So I don't think that the market will continue to go much lower than it is now. We'll have to see where inventory is in the next few months in wintertime. Typically in Silicon Valley, we have a big inventory shortage over the winter months, and that typically kickstarts demand for the next year. So depending on where inventory is, we'll see. If inventory is really high, then possibly we can see even more price softening. If inventory becomes much lower than it is now, then we'll continue to see price increase at a much lower pace. I don't think that the real estate market in Silicon Valley will continue to go down, and neither do all the experts in the real estate world. They think homes will continue to appreciate by the end of this year, not at the same pace we were seeing, 15-20% more, but maybe 1 or 2% increase in value. Now, in general, Silicon Valley is not very volatile. So a lot of sellers here have a lot of equity. They don't need to sell their home. If their home is sitting on the market for a long period of time without any offers, they may just take their home off the market, put it up for rent because they have already moved on to their next home, or they can just continue to live there longer since they have so much equity. So if sellers decide to take off their home off the market because they're not getting the money they want, then we'll have that inventory shortage I'm talking about, and it will just kickstart demand again and continue to increase pricing. So I think this is a unique time in the Silicon Valley real estate market, and if you're not taking advantage of this price softening happening right now, then a few months down the line it may just be right back up. So hope this information was helpful. If you received any value whatsoever from this video, please consider subscribing, and we'll see you next time. If you have any real estate questions, feel free to call or text me at 408-480-6431. If not, feel free to shoot me a DM on social media at the Cesar Yanis on Instagram. And thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Peace.